find adventure at the click of a button, or from the turn of a page, or the casting of a die. Join your hosts, Coniff and Shiloh, on an unforgettable journey. Questing the Multiverse.
Welcome to episode 10. That's right, 10X. Not Twitter. Roman numeral X. Yeah, that's yeah. Diez.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that Spanish?
Diez, yeah. 10.
Diez
Spanish.
is French. Diez. What is Japanese? Ichi ni sanji go roku shichi hachi kuju. So there you go.
Wow.
We're here at episode 10. And I have a story for you, Shiloh.
All right.
Well, you were part of it for a moment last night.
Was I? Okay.
Yeah. But listener,
Probably fell asleep.
yeah, you might have. Listener, I went to a wedding last night with the wife, and it's the first wedding the wife and I have been able to go to without kids. And there was also an open bar, and I was with, again, it was for my coworker. I don't know if I mentioned that, but a ton of us from the office went, including my boss. And my boss's husband thought it would be cool to just keep feeding me drinks. And so there was like a jalapeno pineapple sake cocktail. There was cherry limeade sake. There was Angry Orchard. There's a lot of different fun stuff. And so, but man, I had a blast, let me tell you. And so after the wedding and my wife drove us home, I was like, Stark, let's play some game. I don't care what it is. And so we hop in Discord in the Loreforged community, because that's kind of where we've played a lot of our game. Like a lot of our friends are currently. And I'm looking, at the Discord, and it's just like Stark and I in the channel. And then moments later, Ardeth and Weevil join. And then at some point you join, and then Tempest was there. And it became a whole party, effectively. And I'm sitting there just having the time of my life. Let me tell you, we played Hell Let Loose, and I think it was like 8 kills and 35 deaths. So that should tell you about how effective I was fighting World War II. We ended up winning, though, so it was like, it's like whatever. But then we played Payday 3, and they tried to blame the fact that they're terrible at robbing banks on me and alerting the guards, and that was the first match we did. And while I was inside a part of the bank that I probably shouldn't have been, that doesn't excuse the other heists that we did later that night, in which Stark tried to pull out a drone in the middle of a jewelry store and set up a camera. So I don't think I'm the one to blame for our terrible robbery attempts. Although we did make out with some good deal of money, so... So that was my last night. It was fun. But yeah, Payday 3, that just released on, it's on Game Pass, but all over the world. I never played Payday 2. Did you, Shiloh?
No, I've never. There was something about the masks, I think. It was like, okay, I don't really want to play this game. I did, however, download it for the Xbox, so
okay,
maybe eventually I'll have to check this out if I can get past this the hurdle of the load-in screen, which I heard is not fun. But yeah, we'll see.
I'm not just saying because of my state last night, but the menu of the game was giving all of us problems, like getting into a group, then starting the actual matchmaking. You still had to matchmake even though it was 4 of us. Yeah. I don't know. It was like, how do you develop?
I think that's where I kind of probably dozed off and just got disconnected.
Just hit
eventually
the X
woke
button.
up and was like, okay, I'm
out.
I gotta get some sleep. Yes. Disconnect, no buys, nothing.
Yeah, it's a fun game. It's basically the first 20 minutes of The Dark Knight, and that's the whole game. So, which if you remember that movie, they do the whole heist with the masks, and some of those masks look the same from that scene in the movie. But yeah. Right. What have you been up to in this past week? Although I think I already know, but if you would so kindly tell our wonderful listeners, the musings of Shiloh Waltz.
Primarily New World. I've been getting into Brimstone Sands on my character, kind of respecing into more of a DPS role. Of course, with that game, I can also switch to sword and board and tank if I needed to, because I have sword and board and spear and warhammer leveled up decently. So I have that, and I have the armor. Well, kind of. I have upgrades and stuff, but
not min-maxed. But you do have armor.
Yeah, not min-maxed. But there's no point right now in min-maxing because, well, everything gets thrown in the trash come next Tuesday anyway. Yeah. So, but yeah, I've just I've been enjoying that. Just some Guild Wars 2 dailies. We'll get into the Starfield stuff when we hit that in a little while, but a little bit of Starfield and a whole lot of house hunting. So that's been with the days off that I've had, I've been doing a lot of that, driving around, looking at houses, kind of doing drive-bys, as it were. Not
without the Uzis.
Without the Uzis and catcalling. So it's been interesting. I don't know. Can you do that in a drive-by catcall and then start?
I think it's just shoot first, ask questions, or don't even ask questions later. Just shoot. I don't look like somebody who.
Well, you are robbing banks and
I guess that's a good point. So. Me and my very nerdy glasses, my comb over swoop. I am the type of person that you would certainly would expect to shoot first, ask questions later. In Payday 3, because let me tell you, in that game, once things start going south, I was just unloading magazines. So there was no
you weren't out there to inquire about a loan or anything. So
no,
it's not that type of game.
Nope.
That's primarily it. Well, what about you?
I have,
other than Payday 3 and
but that's the first time I played it. I've had a busy week. I don't think I mentioned it because I think I finished it last Sunday after we recorded, but I finished Baldur's Gate 3.
Yep.
And I don't know if I will ever play certainly an RPG that is as good as that again.
Probably not.
It's not that because it is turn-based combat, so it doesn't have the same immersion that something like The Witcher or Cyberpunk or even Starfield could have,
or Elden Ring.
But it's one of the best written stories in a fantasy video game RPG, in my opinion. And on top of that, the characters are exceptionally well developed. I took Shadowheart, Gale, and Asterion my entire time. And we, of course, in other episodes have talked about it. And eventually, we are going to do a full spoiler-filled episode once you finish the game. Entirely on what we think of BG3, where we think it stands in the pantheon of games and all that. So I'll save most of that for then. But my mind was being blown, twists and turns, even up to the final hour of the game. That's how much they put into it. I read a few things on Reddit because once I beat it, of course, for me, that's when sort of the NDA comes off, and I will scour the internet and, read theories on the ending of the game or certain parts of the game. There's a specific character in the game that is a lot more than they appear, is how I will word that. There's, like I said, there's several twists and turns, but the important thing is, as I was looking at all this and, reading about what I had just completed and all this, someone made the comment, they're like, man, if we could just give Larian the funding to just create D&D modules like this, because that's effectively what this is just one giant module that you're playing through, right? As I understand it. And so, like, if we could just have them be like, all right, let's do one up by Neverwinter and maybe an Honor Among Thieves style storyline or something, just something wild. Like, just give them the keys to the entire, like, D&D mansion and run wild with, RPGs set in that universe, because they did such a good job. And, I don't know. I mean, I've watched Honor Among Thieves already this week again and again. So, let's see. Aside from that, it was a very busy week at work. I went to bed one night at like 9:30, which is unheard of for me.
Okay. Yeah.
I was reading I'm reading that Cyberpunk No Coincidence book, and I was just sitting in my reading chair and I was like, I am about to fall asleep. So I just went to bed. I was like, I have no energy. And so that was great. And then Friday, I do have to confess to three of our listeners who I have been playing Magic the Gathering with online. So this is your shout out, Cody and Chris and Newbie. Newbie's no stranger, but this is your shout out, Cody and Chris, whom are two of the sort of the foursome that play Magic the Gathering over Discord. But I cheated on you guys on Friday I went to like a board game night with some friends, and we ended up playing Magic at the last half of the game night. And I did win. I didn't win with my Athreos deck, so they'll know what that means. But I did end up winning with Mael. And I had like Titan of Industry, Atali, Primal Conqueror, Hellkite Tyrant, several other of these big, mean, nasty creature cards on the field, and it was a good time. I had fun. So that's basically my week. I've played Starfield this week as well. Obviously, since I finished Baldur's Gate 3, I'm like, well, I guess I'll dive into this. And I think we're going to talk about it later, but I think both of us might be a little tapped out on single player RPGs at the moment. So
a little bit.
So we'll discuss that in length when we get to the Starfield segment, but
yeah. All right.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I've done. So
cool.
Want to dive into the news?
The news.
It's still a crime that I have yet to create a little news bumper, but I don't know. If someone wants to just say something and send it to our email or send it to me on Discord, as long as it's clean, I will put it in the show. So
should have my dad do it.
Yeah, because he did the news for like a lengthy period of time.
Long time.
Yeah, before there were cameras. No, I'm kidding. It's one thing to make fun of you and your age, but I feel like your dad is off limits. Like I got to have the respect there. But for you, you and Stark, it's just all.
Yeah, no respect.
No restraints. Yeah, no respect. We get no respect here. That's
like
what
Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah. So the first up is the leaked next upgraded all digital Xbox Series X Plus controller. This stands out to me for two things. First, let's talk about the Xbox itself. So the leak is for a cylindrical Xbox Series X. Obviously, no disc tray. There's like a USB-C port on the front. What else was there? Just the power button, everything. Obviously, this is a leak, so it hasn't been announced, so we don't know much more other than the splash info graphics that leaked about this. But it's codenamed Brookline, or Brooklyn, I guess.
Yeah, just Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But that's obviously just a placeholder name.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I don't remember what the
that?
Xbox
Scarlet,
Series...
Project Scarlet or something like that. Yeah. And so it's the same price, so I guess that's good. If you're still on an Xbox One generation, you can find these consoles now. I mean, if you can afford it, like you're gonna want to upgrade because the Xbox One is just aging out, and games these days are 100 to 200 gigabytes of storage, and 2, they're just going to start overpowering old machines. And so this upgraded Series X, aside from being discless and round, so you have to stand it up. That's the thing that kind of got me, is like you have to stand it up. You can't lay it down. My Series X is currently laid down on its side because that's kind of where it fits underneath the TV. It comes with 2 terabytes now, which, if you ask me, that was something that they just completely overlooked when they made the original Series X. Like 1 terabyte's not enough anymore especially for a game console where you're going to install a lot of games, especially discless. Well, even if it had disc, like you still have to install disc games.
Yeah.
But it's going to be 2 terabytes for internal storage. It's not yet known, again, this is a leak, if you'll be able to use those expansion card. We made the joke, I think in GG Party Chat, that back in 2004 you bought little 16 megabyte expansion cards, or what are memory cards, whatever, for the PlayStation 2. Yeah, we're back, except it's now 1 terabyte. So
yeah,
it's dumb, but 2 terabytes is good. That's a sweet spot, I think. Like, you can install what you want, and honestly, if you're already reaching the limit on 2 terabytes, you probably need to uninstall the games you haven't touched in like the past year and a half. So yeah, that's just a hard truth, but no, you're fine. What do you think on this?
Too
little, too late, maybe?
I'm as an owner of a Series X, and just like you, I think I made a comment and like, well, older people, or the design looks a lot like a router, or looks a lot like an air purifier.
Yeah, that for sure.
It's streamlined, which I like, and it's but it looks other than the fact that it comes with 2 terabyte instead of 1, which is what Series X comes with, right? 1 terabyte.
Yep.
It just looks like a cylindrical version of what I already have. Like, I don't really see now this gyro or gyro controller that they have going with it. I'm suspect on this because I did own a PS4 Pro with a DualShock controller, and I got to play around with that. And while it's generally touted as being like revolutionary or really great, I didn't like the fact that sound actually came out of it. It always freaked me out when I was playing Final Fantasy, and I would get a cue pop up, and all of a sudden my controller would shake a little bit and be like whoosh, and I was like, aha, what's going on? I'm not a big fan of it, but I guess it could be that maybe that's just a very poor representation of what that controller can actually do. But if it, I don't know. We'll have to. Time will tell on that, I suppose. I like the looks of it. It's kind of cool. It's a kind of a black and white design.
Yes, the controller is the star of this leak, in my opinion, which is ironic because the article says the opposite. The star of this leak is the new updated Xbox Series X console. I disagree. The controller is where I think the most change has taken place. Like, there are some updated technologies in the new Series X, but it's just maybe slightly better Bluetooth, better Wi-Fi. Just not, whatever, minimal stuff. But the controller, the haptics, that's more in line with the PlayStation 5 controllers. So instead of just having your typical vibration, it's going to be like targeted and specific, frequency or whatever. And that, I think, will be a little bit better. But they've also got, again, a better grip. And I think I read here that you're going to be able to customize this controller too, or they'll release like the custom
modular
Xbox
thumbsticks, kind of like an Elite controller. Quieter buttons, which is a big deal. The newer Xbox controllers are a lot quieter than the old Xbox controllers would be. They were very, very noisy. The improved repairability, I'm suspect on because how I can't even count on my two hands how many controllers I have gone through.
One of the sticks starts to drift. Yeah.
One starts to drift. One of the bumpers, especially the right bumper, I would wear out.
They break. I have one that's the left is just doesn't work. It's actually the controller that came with the Series X, and so
it's always the bumpers. The triggers work fine, but there's always a drift or the bumpers will break for me. So
I like the look.
Maybe that could be good.
Like not just this haptic one. I just mean Xbox controllers in general. So for our YouTube viewers, this is the one that I have that I custom made for playing Xbox games, and I've tried the PlayStation. How did you feel like when you went from, obviously on this you've got your offset thumbsticks, and you're very familiar with that. We played games on Xbox for years.
Yep.
Is it weird to do for you the inline thumbsticks?
It was, it took a little while to get used to, especially on an MMO. Final Fantasy 14 was trying to play that on a controller is a feat amongst itself, although it's really well done. But I think the hardest part for me was just getting used to symbols like hit square. I'm like, what's square? Is that X? I don't know. Is that A? Hit triangle. I don't know what those are. But
I've never seen these shapes before in my life.
Geometry's beyond me. But it's I don't know. Well, I guess time will tell on this thing, and I'm sure there'll be tweaks, and who knows, this just could be false information.
That too.
I have a feeling it probably semi-spot on, so we'll see.
And again, it's like we're 3 years into the cycle of Series X and S and the PlayStation 5.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we are.
Right, because it was 2020, and then for the next 2.5 years, you can't buy them anywhere, or you couldn't. Like, they're not ready to release a new generation of console. Although apparently, this is like a bonus little thing. The Switch might, Nintendo might release the next generation of the Switch either late next year in 2024 or 2025. So we'll see. But so they're just, I don't know. They're just trying to improve upon the base design, I guess. But all right, what about this next news piece, Shiloh? You were for a little bit. Was this in May? Might have been in May. A Division 2 Fiend with our good pal Tempest.
Yeah.
This is not Division 2, though. What is this?
Division 3 has been announced, and this is not the extraction shooter that they've... what is it? Division Resurgence?
Oh,
this is something different. So Let's see. So Ubisoft has confirmed Tom Clancy's Division 3 is now in development at Massive Entertainment. So that's pretty interesting. I'm just going to scan this news article. But yeah, I don't know if they have a timetable and when they plan to release it, but it apparently is in the works. So talking with Tempest, I think he was saying that they plan maybe to go to Boston. Is that what I remember? I don't remember what he exactly
said.
Yeah,
I don't know. And they don't mention it here at all in this article. So
it'll be interesting to see what they do with the Division 3. I am a big fan of this game. Division and the Division 2, especially Division 2, which is what I got more into.
Yes.
Got a lot more playtime, played through the campaign and the Warlords campaign, and just kind of fizzled down. So we'll see. It'll be...
That's what it was. Warlords of New York, right? Was the expansion?
Yeah. So, once you reach endgame in that game, I guess you can do a lot of the endgame activities. I just was like, okay, I think I'm done. I don't know if I'm, number one, good enough to do some of this stuff. Number two, maybe it just had run its cycle for me by that time. I was like, okay, I've seen what I need to see.
Yeah. I never finished Warlords of New York, but I enjoyed the Division 2 as kind of like a shut your brain off type game. And I know that game you can play like an MMO or Destiny 2, where you're getting the perfect armor, crafting it, even, modding everything to your specific build and all this. And I think that's where that game's fun would fall off for me. My fun was in, I'm just going to go walk in a direction and start shooting things. And, oh, look, a cool new weapon to play with. That's where my, I guess, fun was derived from. And I think, like, the New York map I think I like it better than the Washington, D.C. Actually, I know fully I prefer the New York. It just seemed a little more wild. Like the taller buildings made it a little more maze-like too, so it was a little more fun to just go pick a direction and explore. And the beginning of Warlords, that's the whole directive that you have is, go to one of these like 4 quadrants of the map and start hunting for this dude.
I liked the gameplay cycle of Warlords. I think it was pretty intriguing and fun.
Yes.
DC was kind of more this overarching plot, which was interesting, but I didn't like I liked Warlords. Not that I didn't like it. I did like, especially some of the going into museums in DC. Like, that is really, really cool. And getting into just firefights in the middle of the Air and Space Museum. It's just
that one, or like the video, like the television museum or whatever it was, like for live TV and stuff. That one was neat. Yeah, there was just a lot of cool set pieces in the Division 2. And normally we've talked about, between you and I, how like I just can't do the third person shooters. Like we tried playing Gears 5, I think it was, for GG Party Chat in one of the early, maybe it was the first season. And none of the 3 of us that did that show finished the game. And for me, I was like, just boring. Like quick run up to cover and wait and start shooting. Division switches it up by giving you those like abilities that you can use. So like I do love running up to cover in Division 2 and then using my drone to flash all the enemies and then throwing my little roller mine that then splits off into these little bastards and just blows up all these. It's like, that's fun.
Yeah.
But
it's much more fluid than
Yes.
Gears. You can get, I mean, you still have the, no, just get out of cover kind of moments.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yes,
I'm stuck
you
in
do.
cover. Oh, no, don't do that. That sort of thing. Where you're trying to get out of
Trying to
cover.
hop
You're trying to
over something.
run or, pull some theatrics out of your butt, and you just end up just derping in front of a box. But yeah, it's much more fluid, and it is more enjoyable. I do actually, the third person combat in Division 2 grew on me quite a bit, and it's like, okay, we can do this. This will do.
That'll
big.
do, pig. That'll do. All right. What's next on the news?
So this came out of left field. This was something I found today, actually. And I had no idea that... And I keep up with MMO news in general, but this... Well, actually, let's see. This article was released September 20th, so it's 4 days old, but I've been a busy little Shiloh. So there have been talks for years for an EverQuest 3 to come out. And in fact, years ago, back in 2019, Holly Longdale, who was, I think, part of the original EverQuest and EverQuest 2 staff, said that there was still promise that a future was for the franchise. And then we haven't really heard anything since. Of course, COVID happened and blah, 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 blah. Daybreak Studios is now, I guess, the owner of the EverQuest property IP, which was originally Sony Online Entertainment had that, along with Star Wars Galaxies and PlanetSide and a few other things that Sony Online has had over the years. But I don't think Sony Online Entertainment's around anymore, or if they are, but whatever.
Yeah.
I think they probably owe me money at this point. But anyway, so yeah, EverQuest 3, I guess the what is this? One of the Daybreak presidents or CEO has been quoted as saying that they want to definitely do something with the IP, and that 2025, I think, is when hopefully they can get the investment money to get this up and running, and then hopefully a release date for target launch of 2028.
Yeah.
So yeah, here we go. CEO Jiham. I hope I pronounced that right. But it just quotes as their company's most important IP, which is for younger listeners. EverQuest was a big deal back in the early 2000s. It was basically the predecessor to WoW. EverQuest 2 eventually came out, and it kind of went head to head with WoW, and of course, basically lost. But I was a huge EverQuest 2 player. Never played WoW until our recent endeavor. But this is exciting. It's exciting to me because EverQuest is a really, really well done IP, and nothing much has been done of it. There was EverQuest Next, which was also something that they were trying to get off the ground. And I don't remember exactly when the dates of EverQuest Next was.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that one time.
Yeah, it was a very cartoony, almost city builder. It was really weird. Like, they were trying to get investors for it, and it just fell flat on its face. So, as a EverQuest fan, because I played EverQuest 2 for almost 6 years, I think, off and on.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
My first, very long time. It was probably it's where the MMO roots, other than Astron's Call, which was kind of my first big MMO. EverQuest 2 is probably my longest played MMO. So this is exciting. like most MMO fans, you're just kind of like, well, we'll just have to wait and see if the rubber meets the road on this one, because we've seen it before with the EverQuest franchise. They just can't really seem to get it up and going, but we'll see. I know that with the success of Elden Ring, and this is going to be a far stretch maybe to some people, but hear me out on this.
Okay.
So there are lots of elements of Elden Ring that you would consider maybe sort of old school, and like no mini maps, no quest journals, none of that was in Elden Ring, and it was beloved for that reason. EverQuest kind of originally put that on the map, like this is kind of the hardcore, and I don't think they really did it on purpose. It was more of just more
limitation.
This is the game.
Systems. Yeah.
Enjoy, and it was like, okay, well, how do we do all this stuff? And so it'll be interesting to see if they take that direction. I hope they take that direction rather than this weird, cartoony city builder, biz cash kind of game that I'm not really totally into, but. If they can take the elements that made Elden Ring popular and made their game beloved for years and years and years. I mean, people still play EverQuest and EverQuest 2, I guess. I mean, the servers are still open, and EverQuest 2 still releases content. So
it's still kicking all these
still
years
cooking.
later.
So if they can just bring new graphics to that franchise and build upon that, I think they could have a winner there. But we shall see. 2028 seems pretty close if they're just now like, oh yeah, this is something we want to do. Let's just say it's 5 years out. It seems a little, because some companies take 10 years for some of these things to really surface. So we'll see.
That was out of left field, like you said, because I think in the discussion that we have with our friends surrounding MMOs, there's really only 2 titles that are, or until now, now I guess 3 until now, there's 4 that were on like the watch list. The most obvious is Ashes of Creation, since it is the one that is probably the most transparent about its development cycle. We mentioned them before, but our good friends Jibs, Cash, and Sunny, they head Loreforged, which is a Ashes of Creation content creation endeavor that they're doing. And so if one of our listeners wants to know more about Ashes, go check out Loreforged on YouTube and Twitter. And then check, you can listen to their podcast, watch their videos and stuff. And so Ashes is obviously this game that people know, like people who play MMOs know about. But then the other one is Riot's MMO. Riot being a huge game company, League of Legends, anything involving Runeterra. So Legends of Runeterra, Ruined King, Mage Seeker, Convergence, I think, is a new one they just launched, but better known for maybe some people, the show Arcane, the K-pop group KDA. Riot's got a very eclectic resume. They're doing an MMO, so that one's obviously noteworthy. But then I think Lord of the Rings, the new Lord of the Rings one, got teased again, so that's back on the plate, possibly.
Yeah, back on the menu.
Meat's back on the menu, boys. But now EverQuest 3. And so I think Ashes will be a good game. I am not 100% on board with like the hype train for it. And you and I have talked about that. I think I've mentioned that to Cash and whomever, the other Loreforged folks before. I'm willing to let their work kind of teach me about the game and consume it that way. It's easier to learn about that way, right? I think the challenge Ashes will have amongst these other ones specifically is it doesn't have the legacy that EverQuest 2 or EverQuest 3 would have. It doesn't have the familiar IP that something like the Lord of the Rings MMO, new Lord of the Rings MMO would have. And it doesn't have the legacy or the world building that the Riot stuff has. Now, Steven Sharif is going to really push some of the stuff. And as the game develops and we learn more, like we're going to find out more about the world and all this. And so it just could be a lengthy development process in which they build upon this stuff. And, then it will stand up against all these others. But that's what's fascinating to me about EverQuest 3 being mentioned, is that EverQuest 3 will be stepping into a genre with its entire legacy, in tow. The world, the characters, all that. It's definitely an interesting announcement for the MMO genre. And I think everybody kind of knows that MMOs are in a sort of stasis state. Like there's nothing new that's really, we're going to talk New World. Actually next episode, and we'll get there. But like there's just not a ton of new in the MMO, or new takes on old beloved worlds and stories. How Blizzard hasn't announced they're working on like a World of Warcraft 2 at this point is beyond me.
Wait, well that'll come now that EverQuest is announced.
Oh shoot!
I guess it really hasn't been officially announced, but I think the guy jokes and says, "Oh well, if I do announce it, then it'll be a global gaming news announcement."
Yes,
so
and it would, because it is.
I guess it's been leaked that maybe this is actually something that might come to fruition. But yeah, this is a big deal, and if they can. What I kind of get sick of, what I hope they don't want to do, and what they did with Next, is try to reinvent the wheel. Try to make sushi soup when no one wants sushi soup. Like that sounds disgusting. Like just stick with your guns. This is what you've been doing. This is what you did for years and years and years since the early 2000s. Just redo that. With better graphics, new stories, updated character models, new monsters, new spells, abilities, blah, 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 and just go with it. You know, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to make sushi soup. Just do what you did best and make a nice hardcore. Well, when I say hardcore, I mean like, EverQuest was known for, and I'm kind of getting into this New World where maybe doing things in groups is a lot better in the open world. Like you might need a group to go do this said place. EverQuest was very good about that.
Yeah.
And Guild Wars 2 does that too. Like there are parts of Guild Wars 2 you don't want to even be near. I mean, there are people that have builds and stuff
Tangled
that can
depths.
Stuff like that. It's just like, I don't know.
Yes.
And EverQuest is very, very good about making that kind of a group-based, explorable, fun, open world, and that kind of excites me. So we'll see. I'm not gonna count my chickens before the eggs, or however that cliche works. But yeah, we'll see.
I am excited. Now that this is even brought to my attention, simply because ever since having finished Baldur's Gate 3, I'm big on the story and the world. And going into Baldur's Gate 3, we did you can listen to those episodes, but I did a little primer on the world of Faerun and the Forgotten Realms through Wolfheart FPS. He did like a little... what was it, like a playlist on YouTube of things you should know before starting Baldur's Gate 3. And it was spoiler free. It was just good information. And I had watched Honor Among Thieves and all this. And so I went into that game with a healthy, like, dose of, I don't know, just knowledge and understanding of the lore of what I was getting into. And so with EverQuest 3, that would be a huge, like, I wouldn't go back and play EverQuest 2 or 1, but I would certainly study up on them because there's a lot of history in those games that I'm sure will find its way into the next one. So,
yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
We shall see. Well, it is time for this.
Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've been waiting for. Video Game Face-Off!
I think this is going to be the shortest one of these segments yet. So we've got Halo 2 versus Mario Kart Wii, and I did choose the Wii version for a specific reason in this. All the Mario Karts are kind of the same. They always have been. My personal favorite is Mario Kart N64 or Mario Kart 64 or whatever on the Nintendo 64. But we'll get into why. So we'll briefly mention what is Halo 2 if for whatever reason someone out there has never played or heard of Halo 2. That's impressive. But we'll get into that. We'll get into what is Mario Kart, but then specifically what is Mario Kart Wii, our gut reaction, and then the next matchup we'll tease. But did you Halo 2 is a 2004 game. Did you play Halo 2 back then? Because that was a big deal when it came out.
I played Halo 2, but I've never been a Halo enthusiast.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. I played probably the campaign maybe with my brother, I want to say. Maybe. Yes. I don't remember.
It was co-op, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I never played, competitively or anything like that. Just
back then, Shiloh was a ace in Halo 2. No.
Yeah, I was a regular.
It was the game, I think, that really brought console multiplayer matchmaking to reality. Because, like, you would hop in, you could group up with friends, and or even on the same Xbox, like split screen, you could join someone's gamer tag as a guest, and then you would just click matchmake, and there were different playlists, and you just go to town. And it was the beginning of that. And Halo itself is a very legendary IP. In my opinion, Halo 2 is the best game of the series. I think a lot of people would probably, especially younger people, would probably say Halo 3 is best. And by younger, I mean like, maybe people in their mid-20s now, which is crazy to think. Like, that game has been around for so long. But Halo 3 introduced the Forge, where you could create maps and everything, so it was a big deal. But Halo 2 is... like, Halo Combat Evolved is fine. It's a good game. But Halo 2 took everything about Combat Evolved and simply made it better. Better multiplayer maps. I mean, you've got, like, Ascension, Lockout, which are two of my favorite Halo maps of all time. You've got just a pretty legendary campaign involving not just Master Chief, but the Arbiter, who was an elite... I don't remember. I want to say Elixir, but that's obviously Destiny. But that's kind of what they're, you can see Bungie's, I guess, a dotted line between the elites of Halo universe and the Elixir in Destiny. But very interesting time for games because, again, like multiplayer for console, online console, was just taking off, and this game just made Xbox the number. Like, this is when Xbox was truly better than Sony and PlayStation, I would think, and it was probably all to do with Halo. So
I think I probably did play, and it was probably a big deal because I remember playing a game with my brother at the time. We were kind of into MMOs, and so actually
yes.
being able to get on a console and play with him was kind of a big deal. So it's like, all right, let's do this. And for a while, we played multiplayer games like Borderlands and things like that down the road. We would play through the co-op stuff. I think we did Modern Warfare 2 on that. So yeah, like I mean, I've played some of these games that you think of, what I consider as competitive shooters, but I probably play them.
Right?
I play them in the Care Bear format and just play the campaign, which most people are like, "You play the campaign in that game? Okay, well, sure, whatever, nerd." But yeah, that's the way I played them. Like, I want the story and the beats, but
well, back then playing the campaign on Legendary was a ton of fun and a challenge. I mean, I have two distinct memories from Halo 2 specifically. The first is I remember my good friend Newbie he had gotten the collector's edition, which came in this like steel book, titanium, silver looking book, whatever they call those, disc case.
Yeah.
And he brought it to school and was showing all of us, and the disc wasn't in it, of course, because it was in his Xbox. And I was like, man, that is slick. And then him and I trying to beat the campaign. We might have even done it. Who knows? Beating the campaign at his house on split screen on Legendary. It was a ton of fun there's another one where we were on this multiplayer map. It was like a city map. I know they remade this map in either Halo 4 or Infinite or 5. I don't freaking how many Halos there are now. But you could get to through super bounces and other certain glitches. You could get to the very tip top of the map, and all I remember is that there's this 2D antenna on top of this building, and if you could get up to there, you're at the highest point in any of the Halo the multiplayer maps and stuff. Just a ton of fun playing this game over the years, back in 2004 and a few years after that. It was an Xbox seller. People bought Xbox specifically to play Halo 2, Halo 2 multiplayer with their friends, or even the co-op in your case and my case. But so then we turn our attention to Mario Kart Wii. Now, Mario Kart is a pretty legendary franchise in and of itself. It is a very long-standing franchise with a new game every system, I think. Except the Wii Universe, the Wii U didn't get one. But, you had the SNES one, you had N64. They made one for the Nintendo DS. I think they made one for the Game Boy Advanced. They made one for the GameCube. They made one for the Wii we're talking about. They also have a Mario Kart for the Switch, which my kids and I love playing. It's a fun game for a group of people. And I fancy myself as someone who is exceptionally good at Mario Kart. And it wasn't until I went off to college that I had ever lost. I was a fiend for the N64 one. And then I went to college, and one of the seniors put me in my place. And then from that day, I was like, all right, that's my goal in college, not to graduate, but to get better at Mario Kart. And eventually I did. And then I beat him, and the rest is history. But the Wii is notable, and the reason I picked it because it was the first one to use, which the Wii was big on the whole motion sensing controller and everything. They sold a peripheral wheel that you would stick and slot the Wii controller in, and then you drive like this, literally like a car, well, a go-kart, whatever. And when you would play online, you couldn't you couldn't choose. No. You got the choice between using the wheel or using, like some people would use like a GameCube controller or whatever. But if you never, ever on your profile used anything but the wheel, you would have like a golden wheel next to your name or in your license or something. And so it was a matter of pride for me because I got up to like one of the highest rankings in that game on the Wii online, like to the point where I'm playing against all the like Japanese character name people that are using hacks to win races. Like, so on one hand, it was a double-edged sword. I was really, really good, and I got extremely high online rating, but then that puts you in lobbies with all the cheaters, so who also have very high ratings. But it was a matter of pride that I had never not used the wheel, and so all of my game playing was with the wheel. And I loved it. And my sister loved it, and it was just a good time. But it is time for our gut reaction. So, Shiloh, which of these two games is going to move on in our video game face-off bracket?
Halo 2.
And that's a wrap, because I'm also picking Halo 2 as well. It's just no contest. Like, Mario Kart's great. Excuse me. Mario Kart's fantastic, but...
yeah.
It's like, what's better? Shiloh's Chevy Bolt or whatever it is you drive, or a Ferrari Enzo? So that's quite... unless, I guess if you're driving in the city, Shiloh's car wins. But if you're actually like to drive a car, the Ferrari's going to win every time.
Yeah,
so
you want to drive my car if you want to like to drive cars. It's yeah,
does it only have three wheels?
No contest really, especially when you consider the impact of Halo 2 as far as what it opened the doors for. And Call of Duty pretty much has Halo 2 to thank.
Yes, absolutely.
And
all those kids need to learn
on.
that lesson. That,
Yeah,
respect your elders. Halo 2.
Damn it.
And
it's
so
nothing
true,
against Mario Kart. I remember playing that. My brother had a 64. I don't think I've ever played it on the Wii, but yeah, I mean those Mario Nintendo games are fun. But to me, that's where the that's where the line stops. That's funny.
Yes.
It's got a great personality, but. What's up next?
So this should be an interesting pairing. We have done a pairing from each of the four quadrants, so mass multiplayer, multiplayer RPG, single-player RPG, and miscellaneous. And as I mentioned in one of the first few episodes, that whole alignment, or rather categorization of games, is very loose, let me tell you. And so we're now in mass multiplayer again. And the last time we were here, Hell Let Loose beat out Destiny 2 after some penalty points to Destiny 2 after the fact. But we changed how we do the score if we have to do the score, because if we're not aligned on it. This is Elder Scrolls Online versus Fortnite. And this is going to be a pretty interesting matchup, because as much as I don't think people our age or older or whatever want to admit, Fortnite is in many ways the Halo 2 of this past, decade. Like, same with like Minecraft. Like, I know you don't like Minecraft, but it's the most... Minecraft is the most sold game of all time for a reason. So, or I think it's technically Tetris, but it's had like several decades ahead of Minecraft. So anyway, we'll get into that. Elder Scrolls Online versus Fortnite. I don't know where I am at personally on that, and we'll find out. And next time may not be next episode, by the way. It's just next time we do this segment. So... well, shall we get into a little bit of our new Bethesda experience?
All right.
folks. This is your captain speaking. We've begun our descent into Alpha Centauri's atmosphere and should be arriving at New Atlantis Spaceport in just about 10 minutes. On behalf of Constellation, we hope you enjoy your stay.
So I wrote and had our good friend Stark record that intro prior to the game coming out, so I had no clue the relation of Constellation to anything. And so I think it's funny in our little intro, Constellation's kind of this like travel company. That's not quite what they are in game at all. But so why don't you kick this off this time with Starfield? And we're gonna talk. We need to mention that we're probably going to pause Starfield after this episode because we're going to do some New World. October's right around the corner. There's a lot of Halloween stuff, and then it's into the thing. And that has the fact if we pause, the game for us, that has no bearing on how good we think it is. It's just we're pretty tapped out on single player games at the moment.
I mean, you had mentioned the burnout, and burnout is real. I still have yet to finish Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm trying to. I know that I have 2 weeks coming up.
Yes,
at the beginning of October. So I have a laundry list of gaming that I want to get done because most of my vacation is going to be staycation with some other things scattered around, but I'm going to have a good amount of time to put into gaming. So Baldur's Gate 3 to finish that out, and Starfield. And unfortunately, just playing another single player RPG right after Baldur's Gate 3 is probably, especially as big as Starfield is just a little overwhelming at this point. So what I have done is almost backtrack. So what I have done in Starfield was I have this. I originally just kind of went into the game thinking I'll just do whatever, and I'll just pick out something. And we covered what we were gonna originally roll, and it just didn't really feel. I wasn't really playing the game the way I think I envisioned. I had a new vision for what I wanted my character to be. So I just was like, oh, screw it. I just deleted my saves and just made a new save and rolled up a new character with kind of more of a gear preference, like what I envisioned the character to be, kind of a the pirate, and just a very rough and tumble type of character. So
well, that was the hard thing too, is like when you went into BG3, you knew you had a good idea of what you wanted to play because you knew how playing that would play out a little bit in the game because the game was in early access. But with Starfield, when we did our first episode on Starfield where we talked about what do we want to play, like what character do we want to create, well, and this is just kind of the problem with Bethesda anyways, like they're very tight-lipped on the game. And so none of us, you and I certainly had no clue what we were, like what we were going to pick was going to impact our gameplay or how it was going to fit into it. So I'm thinking I might do the same thing as you. Yeah, I'm a little further in, but I'm like, okay, now that I know kind of like how it's going to play out and the type of things I'm going to enjoy doing, maybe I would enjoy the sort of piracy type character that I know that you've kind of landed on. So so right now I'm just trying to get back up to where I was in the story, which wasn't very far. That's why I had no scruples about just deleting all my previous saves and starting from scratch. And so that has been my Starfield playthrough, is basically catch up, not the condiment, but actually playing catch up with trying to get back to my original form. And there'll be more on that down the road as
my vacation time opens up and I'm able to sit down with that. I think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable, and just taking a little bit of a break. New World has kind of taken me a little bit just in the hours after I get off work, and even not. It's just been fun to play a multiplayer MMO like that. So even if I do play solo a majority of the time, it's still fun to see other people running around, and occasionally people from the community will come in, and then we get stuff to do. But yeah, for now, I think Starfield's gonna take a little bit of a hiatus. I think originally we were like, yeah, we're gonna do Baldur's Gate 3, and then we're gonna go into 5-6 episodes of Starfield, and it looked great on paper, like it was perfect on paper because of everything. But then reality sits in, and you're like, oh god, I just read Moby Dick. I think I just want to sit down with a magazine for a minute.
Yeah, that's like why. I mean, I mentioned I had read House of Leaves in one of our episodes, and immediately following that, I went into one of Brandon Sanderson's secret project books, Tress of the Emerald Sea, which is a very light sort of fantasy, fun, almost young adult novel. Like, there's no way I would have been able to dive into like an act. Like, I have Patrick Rothfuss's Name of the Wind in my to read list on my bookshelf.
I need to read that.
And I do need to read that, but I was like, I can't read that right after House of Leaves because that's a big book, and the second one is even bigger. And I also have that on my shelf. So I'm like,
yeah,
so I went
did
from
it right.
Yeah,
I mean, because I'm not a big horror fan, if I do watch a horror movie, I almost generally immediately follow it up with some comedy or something.
Yeah, you got to balance it out.
Brain off of Samara from The Ring or something, so I'm not thinking about it all damn night.
So he goes to lie in bed and the door
or The
creaks
Exorcist,
open.
and I'm just like, I don't know, put something with, I don't know.
Shiloh's computer monitor turns on in the middle of the night and starts
God.
staticking. And that's the thing. It's like you go from Baldur's Gate 3, which, in my opinion, is game of the year, game of the 2020s so far. I would put it ahead of Elden Ring, and I love Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a top 10 game for me of all time, I think. In fact, I have been trying to be more diligent about, because, we've talked about the ranking or the rating system that I kind of developed for the video game face-off segment. Well, I have my own. It's the same thing, but I rank all the games that I play, or rate them, I should say. And I'm pretty sure it's a top 10 for me. But coming from that experience of Baldur's Gate 3 to then immediately going to Starfield, which Starfield is extremely wide. Like, Baldur's Gate 3 is good, but it's a linear story, like beginning to end. I mean, there are like a bunch of different iterations of how things can play out, of course. But like the premise of you have this tadpole in your brain and you want it out is always going to lead you to the same boss fight at the very end. As opposed to Starfield, where because Tempest, our friend Tempest, has already beaten it, and he was telling me that like the main campaign is short, but the real fun of Starfield is everything else that is around it, and I would agree with that. And so, but Starfield is just massive. Like, there's so much of that to do around various systems,
and I think that's the overlying. The biggest point to make for both of us, and that we both know that, and so we don't want to, we're not the type of gamer to just rush in like, I beat that, I got through the story, I'm done. I can't play that way personally, so and I don't want to rush through the story just so we have content on the show. So,
and more importantly,
maybe that's my excuse. I don't know, but it seems, I know that's the way I want to play this game, is more not casual, but more invested in just everything else. So it's going to be interesting to to dive into that really fully.
Yes, at some point.
In a couple of weeks, yeah. So
I do know that what's more important to us anyway is that this show reflects what we're playing.
Yeah.
And so Starfield is a great game, and I'm going to play it. It's just hard to put that much time into another single-player game when I literally just spent 120 hours in BG3.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we'll revisit this game at some point. There's some ideas we tossed around once upon a time about like maybe like doing like a competition of games. So like we do, like maybe somewhere down the line we both play Starfield and the competition is rack up the highest bounty or something to that effect. That could be fun. But anyway, we do have some Starfield stuff to discuss today. So what's this first thing that you put in here?
All right.
Shiloh?
So Paul Tassi, our boy,
Our
old
dear
Paul.
friend, Paul. Never met him.
Paul. Never met him. I don't know him, but been following him generally for years, mainly as a Destiny 2 content creator for Forbes. So this article is Starfield may release more live content outside its expansion. So as you might know, if you're familiar with Starfield, if you've got the deluxe edition or whatever, you have this on your plate, but they've planned an expansion called Shattered Space that reportedly is probably going to be out early 2024. But this is kind of beyond that. So there's an interesting Japanese language interview, which Xbox's Phil Spencer was going around, and he was asked about just a number of topics, including Game Pass and Xbox's new relationship with Square Enix, and of course, which is, Final Fantasy XIV, and of course, Starfield, the biggest Xbox release of the year. And basically, they asked him, what about Starfield's plans for the future, and Spencer said the following: "We believe that it is essential to continue updating Starfield's content in order to maintain engagement with the game over the long term and encourage continued subscriptions. That's exactly what Todd Howard and his team are doing right now." So it's a really interesting answer. So I know if you read down further in the article, Paul Tassi puts a live service like he's cussing.
Yeah, I saw that.
As an offering. But yeah, this is kind of interesting that maybe they view Starfield as almost a live. I don't think that they're going to ever make it a full-on live service game. That seems silly. But if they release content for it in kind of phases and patches, because, every company patches games, so they could just add something to a patch, maybe a little bit of content, sprinkle it in. So I wouldn't consider it a live service game, but this is encouraging that maybe Bethesda can just kind of keep it going and fix stuff here and there, and then also add some content down the road. Of course, we know the modding community is going to release stuff and go full force on this game. And generally, Xbox is a little bit behind the PC, if not a lot behind the PC.
Yeah, but that was before Bethesda was owned by Microsoft. So I'd be curious to see how they adapt that now, because that is whether a lot of people like to meme and joke that, like, okay, Bethesda releases 75% of a game and the modders do the rest.
Yeah,
and I think that's obviously like the glass half empty point of view, whereas the glass half full point of view would be Bethesda creates games that really inspire people to create their own stuff in the game. And Bethesda also gives them the power and the tools to do that. And I think that's a positive thing for the game industry as a whole anyway. I mean, I
think so too.
Yeah, when Phantom Liberty comes out, and I actually just uninstalled Cyberpunk because I wanted to do a fresh install because I had some mods installed. I plan on shopping around on Nexus Mods, shopping because it's all free, but like going around, and there are certain mods that I do want to include on my next playthrough of the game. Like, I don't care about achievements because I think mods cancel out achievements. But for like Starfield, like I'm playing, well, there are no mods yet. Well, there might be, but like I'm not going to play with any mods my first time playing through it. But I've already beat Cyberpunk, back in 2020, 2021. So this next time through, there's a few like quality of life stuff that I want to upgrade and put mods on. So that way when I am going through the game again, it's there. So a lot of people, they love mods, but then they love to make fun of Bethesda for releasing games that they say, the modders need to fix the game. I don't think so. I mean, like, you can play Starfield without mods, and it's a entire complete experience. Many people have done that already.
I played Skyrim without mods.
Yeah, the first time I played it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, man.
Now once
it looks a lot better when you do put mods on it.
That's when you
there's
add texture packs and stuff.
I mean, I've seen some Skyrim stuff that just looks like wow, that's Skyrim.
Yeah, it just looks completely different. And then there's Thomas the Tank Engine dragons, and so you got the full spectrum of mods. Yeah. But the thing is, like, once you've played the game a ton of times, mods are what keep it fresh. Bethesda knows that, and that's why they support all the mods and stuff. What I do like in this article too is how he talks about Paul mentions Fallout 76, and of course, like, that the game kind of bombed on launch and has been slowly rebuilding its reputation ever since. But Fallout 76 has a pretty loyal player base now. For us, we like the game, but we've kind of done everything that we care to do in the game. And, there's no incentive to go back. Every once in a while, I'll fire it up on Xbox to putz around because my kids will be like, oh, go to the alligator, which is the giant water park to the north in whatever that area is. But
really, Fallout 76, for what it was and what it is, and this is, I don't mean to completely tangent, but it really wasn't really ever meant, or at least in my opinion, I don't think it ever should have been released as a quote MMO.
I agree with that.
I think that this live service thing that they're talking about is maybe more in line with 76, and that you have this big game. Like 76 is, for maybe not, the map is not very big. It's just an area of West Virginia. It's not even the entire state, but it feels big. Like it's a big world. But once you get done with the game, you're kind of done. Like there are people that keep playing till they're 2000 level or level 2000, which is crazy talk. But like, I guess they're just constantly in this cycle. And I guess Starfield could follow into that same suit. Like, people could be playing Starfield until they're level 2000. People play Skyrim until they're level whatever. And so maybe that what they're probably referring to is that maybe they could just keep, this not necessarily a live service game, but keep it updated to where people might have things to do if they are wanting to play it for that long. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one as well, because besides the expansion, I think that obviously is going to be their main focus, is just making sure that works well and is not buggy, and because they've done a really, 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 really good job with Starfield not being buggy. I mean, compared to most Bethesda bugs and in previous games that we've had, the Starfield runs really, really well.
In fact, Starfield runs better than Jedi Survivor, which was a pretty big surprise. But I am of the opinion that Starfield is probably Bethesda's best game to date. It's hard to compare it to Skyrim because Skyrim released like 100 times and is like Skyrim, it was 2011, late 2011. And it was in that same era that, like we got Minecraft. And so Skyrim is probably responsible for a lot of the open world games we like nowadays. And and so it's hard to compare. But like Starfield, from like a complete package, is one of Bethesda's better titles. I think the Skyrim story is probably a lot better than Starfield's main story, but like the sense of exploration in Starfield far surpasses any of the other Bethesda titles, I think. And I'm a huge Fallout fan, and so like Fallout 4 is one of my favorite experiences in, I guess, modern console gaming. But yeah, I don't. Same with New Vegas and 3, and I even like Fallout 76. So
Yep.
Okay, well,
Good times.
Good times. What is this about? This next, I guess, the last for now, faction report.
Yeah.
Who is this?
So the next faction that we want to talk about is one that I've kind of had my eye on because I know that it leads me to the city of Neon, which is where my vision for my character initially was, and I think I'm still going to head in that direction. So this is Raijun Industries, which is kind of a more white collar. You think white collar, stealthy, almost
like Arasaka.
Yeah, from Cyberpunk, the very Arasaka company. They kind of control everything, and evidently from the faction missions, they're very, very stealthy. And I think they actually one of the rewards at the very end of the mission is some sort of manipulator thing. Like they're big on what is this here? I can't remember the name of it. I read it
Subterfuge and stuff like that.
Yeah, but there's some sort of reward that you get. I guess it's not in this article, but I was reading something else that you get as a reward that it basically alters people's, makes them do kind of like
mind control.
Yeah, like psychic abilities almost or something. It's very strange. But,
interesting.
So, who are the Starfield Raijun Industries faction? When it comes to factions in Starfield, Raijun Industries stands out as one of the most uncharted. So it's kind of one of the ones you just don't know about. Even when you enter the game, it's like, well, what is this company? The space pirates of the Crimson Fleet have been at the forefront of Bethesda's updates alongside Constellation, the United Colonies, and the Freestar Collective that we talked about last week. But regarding Raijun Industries' place in the settled systems has been harder to gather. So this is someone writing from, like, kind of trying to figure out exactly what this faction is. But this article must have been written before. No, it's written after the game's launch. So I don't know. So Raijun Industries is a mega corporation with a powerful role to play in Starfield. As a megacorp, they're financially driven, rich, and focused on completing jobs to further their monetary gain. They're basically a rich, greedy
corporation. Big surprise. Yeah. Amazon of
big surprise. According to an official tweet from the Starfield game account, you either play nice with Raijun Industries or you live in fear of them. Sounds like Amazon. So when considering allegations in Starfield, it's clear that Raijun Industries doesn't plan on playing nice to anyone who wrongs them. So I think for my direction, for my character, I want to kind of get involved with this.
Yeah.
And then just there are so many factions, I think, in Neon, and I was trying to read up on some of them. I'm going to kind of let it fall, like, just play the game and just let the chips fall where they may. But I know that I don't want my character to necessarily be one of these corporate crazy town people and probably be one of these opposing factions, even if I end up dying a lot. It just sounds like a lot of fun to maybe try to infiltrate this corporation and then get murdered, probably. But this is kind of one of the typical... what's the name of the company in Cyberpunk? Arasaka. So very, very similar to that, where it's one of these big Japanese mega corporations that kind of run the show almost like a God, I can't think of words today.
It happens.
The name of the Japanese mafia.
The Yakuza.
So yeah, very, very Yakuza. So it'll be interesting to kind of play through this and maybe infiltrate this megacorp, but very, very different from the from the previous faction. That's for sure.
Yeah, which feels very like black and white. Like the Freestar Rangers are cool, and I am one. And I was playing today, and or not today, yesterday, and I did a mission for them that involved a shootout with a gang on whatever planet Aquila City's on. But it was like your typical like cowboys and shootout, and it was fun. Like it really was. But I was playing this and I was like, man, like, because Sam Coe is with me still. I can't get rid of him. Which again is entirely because I took the introvert perk, so I'm literally suffering over here.
Yeah, with like, hey perk. Sam, I'm smothering.
But I have to take him around until you finish a mission, which is what I was trying to do. But it's very black and white. It's like you are the good guy sheriff deputy, and these are very clearly bad guys. But what interests me with the Ryujin or whatever, however you pronounce it,
I don't know,
is that it's a little more gray, and you're obviously working for a mega corporation that's driven by money, but I'd be curious to see what type of missions they send you out on. I have seen the front door of their headquarters on Neon, because I was on Neon for a bit earlier this week. It's this, and this is what I was saying, like, I feel like when you mentioned like you erased all your saves, you started over, like I think the Freestar Rangers are cool. Like the space western, like you mentioned in a previous episode, like the Firefly-esque style of storytelling or just environment aesthetic, whatever. Like that's really cool. But the more I'm playing this, the more I'm like, I feel like it'd be more fun to kind of play morally evil, maybe not fully evil, but like
chaotic evil.
Or like just chaotic.
I'm sorry, chaotic good. Just for yourself and just go for
it. Like obviously I think I would still play, like if a kid is in need, I'm gonna help him. But like for some people, like you're stranded on an island, like actually ran into a settler on a planet, and that settler was like, oh, I need a med pack. Like my brother was attacked by this monster, and all this. I think it'd be more fun in that instance to be like, I think we should put him out of his misery, and play it like that. Like that's not necessarily evil, but you're like weighing the options.
Dark urge.
And you're
or just throw him a candy bar or something.
Like, here you go, bud. Have a, what are they? It's like the cubes. I don't remember what they're called. Those like freeze-dried food that you can get in game, cubed Philly cheesesteak or whatever.
Here's a meat cube.
Yeah, but like that's why I'm like, okay, this faction sounds interesting. And the article mentioned the pirates, so the Crimson Fleet, but then also I guess Constellation is a faction, but then you've got like United Colonies and then the Rangers. And so I wonder just how many factions there are in this game. But this one is definitely a little, it does have that cyberpunk vibe. And so I think that would be fun to play into a bit.
Yeah. And there's some mini factions within areas of these factions. So I don't think they offer a whole lot of rewards or but that's kind of where I think my character would be, in that weird gray area of where it could be fun to play around with and see just what I can get away with. But so that is our faction report for Starfield.
Well, before you move into your book report, I did want to say that I think I'm probably like, I'm still gonna play Starfield. I don't think I will play it enough to where we could do episodes about it. You too. Simply because of that single player burnout. Like with Payday 3 out, the New World expansion coming, like I'm gonna, like I've been craving just shutting the brain off a little bit and just playing like multiplayer games here and there. And of course that's the Baldur's Gate effect. But all right, what is this? Oh no, I have the bumper for it. I got to use the right one this time. But yeah.
All right, class, settle down. It's time for book reports. Shiloh, why don't you kick us off?
All right. Well, teacher, I was a bad student, and I don't read no books. So we got movie and music for you today. So I couldn't really think of a really good book. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, first off.
Okay.
I've read a little bit of Star Wars. We mentioned that before. And that's really about it. I just don't read a lot of sci-fi. Mainly fantasy. But I do watch a movie or two. And, of course, play sci-fi video games and anime stuff here and there. But
yeah.
So I wanted to recommend a movie that maybe some people haven't heard of or haven't watched. One of my favorite sci-fi movies, Ex Machina. That's not Deus Ex Machina. It's just Ex Machina. It's got a 92% rate on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a 2015 sci-fi thriller starring Alicia Vikander, Oscar Isaac, and Domhnall Gleeson, who are probably familiar faces from the most recent Star Wars trilogy. Both have kind of played off each other, as one is a rebel fighter and one is a Empire. What was he? What was Gleeson? And
he was the First Order.
Yeah, the First Order General or
General Hux.
General Hux. Yeah. So let me read a brief little snippet of I don't want to really spoil the plot, but Ex Machina is a 2014 science fiction psychological thriller film written and directed by Alex Garland in his directional debut. I want to say somebody that I don't think, not a complete debut, but someone that had to do something with 28 Days Later had something to do with this movie. Oh. So if that piques your interest, then it probably should, because 28 Days Later is arguably probably one of the best zombie movies ever created, other than maybe Day of the Dead and things like that, George Romero. But it follows a programmer who is invited by his CEO to administer the Turing test to an intelligent humanoid robot, who was played by Alicia Vikander. This movie is great. It's got great visuals. It's thrilling. It has a lot of psychology, it's obviously a psychological thriller, but there's also a lot of philosophical elements of between AI and, there are doctors that are trying to study this humanoid robot. So it's actually also very, we've covered certain parts of where AI is going on the show, and plenty of talk within the community about AI and weird stuff that could happen or that is currently going on with AI art and AI voiceovers and everything that's going on with AI. But it's a very, very good movie, very well done. Highly recommend seeing this movie. It's very artistically done too, so very, very visually.
What's the one that had Scarlett Johansson in it?
Ghost of the Shell.
That I think I have gotten those two
it's
mixed
based
up
on
in my head.
Anime.
That was, and that's what I thought. Like, okay, Ex Machina must be based on because I think I was twisting those around in there somewhere. But
yeah.
Or what's that? Attila Battle Angel or something. There's like does that ring a bell? Let me look that up. I don't know. Alita Battle Angel with Christopher Waltz is in that. Keenan Johnson, Rosa Salazar, some of these people I've never heard of. They're probably not related at all, but she's like a robot or some sort of souped up up robotics combat
like cyborg
assassin
kind of thing.
So Ex Machina, I'll have to look. It says it on the poster right here. I can't zoom in, but it says 28 Days Later.
Yeah. There's something to do with 28 Days Later, and I'm sure it has something to do with like a.
Nope. Can't find it on the Wikipedia.
Oh well.
I'm just getting
Anyway,
annoying sound. Sorry, listener, for the annoying Windows sounds that you just heard. Okay, I'll have to look that up then. Maybe we'll give that a watch.
And for the second part of this, so I wanted to recommend music for listeners. I'm a big music person. And this is a band that kind of fits that Starfield sci-fi vibe, but it also is a very, very good band to listen to if you're playing fantasy games as well. Or just listen to this out in the woods, or let's listen to it in your car or whatever. It's
what are you doing in the woods where you just chilling out?
Just out, I don't know, contemplating. So this band it's an Icelandic band called Sigur Rós, which was named after, I think, for the lead singer Jonsi's niece, who her name was Rose. And I think Sigur in Icelandic is little, so I think it's like Little Rose. But so they're a post-punk band that was formed in 1994 in Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland. They incorporate classical and minimal aesthetic elements. I would highly recommend, if you're a fan of kind of Iceland in general, or Norwegian, Norway, Sweden, that area of the world, but particularly Iceland, there's a video of theirs. It's almost like a documentary, documentary or something. It's basically them performing their songs in small little towns in these villages in Iceland.
Wait, what's this on?
The DVD, or it's called Hema, Heimi. Of course, I don't know if I'm pronouncing some of these things right. My Icelandic is a little rusty. So Jonsi, the lead singer, his vocals are sung in Icelandic and non-linguistic vocalizations. The band terms von Leskuma, which also has been termed as Hopelandic, is what they've kind of jokingly called it. So some of it is almost nonsensical, even if you were to speak Icelandic.
Interesting.
So it's more just on tone and fluctuation, which is why, to me, and then he will sing in English sometimes, but most of the songs are sung in this Icelandic or Hopelandic version, which it almost sounds like Elven. Like if you were just trying to play a fantasy game, it would feel like elves were almost singing to you. If you were out in space, it would feel like it's just otherworldly sounding. But they incorporate, there's a bit of them recording a xylophone bit, but it's actually these rocks in this cave in Iceland, and they're using these rocks, and they've made a xylophone in this cave out of these rocks, and it sounds incredible. They record out of this broken, washed up old, like ancient fishing vessel, and they record songs in this DVD or whatever you want to call it, this rockumentary, I guess is the better term, of them recording this song with the acoustics in this hollowed out hole of an ancient Icelandic fishing vessel that's just been stranded on the shore in Iceland. So it's both visually amazing, because Iceland's just a really, really interesting place. I'm going to try to go, I think, next year. I think originally I was going to go to New Zealand, but I've just looked at ticket prices, and with trying to buy a home and everything, I just don't see it being a possibility right now. But I definitely want to do something, because next year I'll be turning 50. So this will be like my 50th birthday present to myself. But it's amazing, because you have the music, you have the visuals of Iceland. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, is visually stimulating as it is a great story and everything. So highly recommend at least watching that video, because it'll give you kind of a reference of what their music sounds like, and then you can kind of go back and
which video was that
their,
again? I was lost in their Wikipedia page. It's a very fascinating band, but what was the video?
Yeah. Hema or Haima.
Oh, the documentary. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the documentary. And I'll link a YouTube. I think someone has remastered that. You can just watch it in its entirely on YouTube. But I would recommend, because I don't know how the fidelity holds up. Yeah, but it just looks amazing on if you can buy a Blu-ray or something.
Well, for our listener, it's HEIMA is the 2006 documentary. I have heard of this band before, not just from you. Like, I've known they've existed. Like, Sigur Rós is a name that I've seen. Yeah. But I've legit never listened to the music. So I might have to focus on that this week and get back to you next episode with what my opinions are.
So whether you like them or not, Radiohead actually had them open up for them because Tom York was like a huge fan. And that's kind of where they got their popularity, because I think they were just a little small Icelandic band. And then Tom York basically brought them on tour for, it might have been Kid A, when they were touring for that album, and they opened up for Radiohead. So, but I've seen them live, and it was probably one of the most surreal experiences. I saw them live at the Ryman in Nashville, and it was absolutely amazing. But that's my music pick for the week.
Well, nice. That's a nice little change up on the standard book report.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, so
might have to think about something like that on future games. Like,
not just a book. I mean, we'd like to talk about other things, not than just
board
books
games.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend music for board games. That would be kind of strange. But
well, you'd be surprised.
Well, that's true. I used to play music when I ran D&D sessions, so
yes.
That sort of thing. And some people don't listen to music, the actual in-game music for MMOs.
I know.
And other games, which
I think is weird to me. Yeah. But
if you don't, which I do, I generally don't listen to other music other than what's in the game. But if you are that type of person, try this band out. If the next time you're in a, I don't know, fantasy MMO, and you just go to some crazy location, just put this on, see what it does for you.
Yeah.
It's pretty surreal.
And that is SIGURROS is the band name. Just because that's not apparent, I don't think.
Yeah, with my broken Icelandic.
All right, well, next episode, as that's going to wrap up this one, we are actually going to turn our attention to New World. I am willing to give it another chance. Especially now that the expansion is going to be, it's like almost a week away. Next Tuesday, I think it is. Everything releases on Tuesdays these days. Weird.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think you should, I don't know how much time you have, but try to get to, maybe go ahead and install it and try to get some levels in before, try to get to 60 before. It'll happen a lot faster than you probably remember.
Yeah.
And plus there are people from the community in there now that can kind of group up. It's been a lot of fun. It really has kind of surprised me.
I know.
Go around.
Stark installed it, so he was going to putz around a bit and wait for the expansion too. So I will.
Brimstone Sands alone has been both horrifying and amazing at the same time. So that's worth checking out before even the expansion comes out. So you have that to kind of. Plus, you can get, if you were to do that, you can get like legendary gear just from Quest.
Maybe that's what I'll make my focus this week. And so our next episode, we'll discuss maybe my experiences at launch compared with your experience to it as a new player, and then go from there. So thank you, listener.
Perfect.
Hope you have a good week, and we'll talk to you in the next episode. Peace.
Adios. Questing the Multiverse is brought to you in part by Coniff Productions, House Wood Designs, and Joel Crawford. To follow along with our adventures, please follow us on Twitter at QTM Podcast and consider joining our Discord, a link of which can be found in the show notes or in our Twitter bio. Want your questions or comments read on the show? Email us at questingthemultiverse@gmail.com. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review or a follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening.